French no luxury.
Discover the all-new 252 DS Automobiles range at Hugo Luna Motors.
Experience pure driving pleasure with DS Automobiles, the French luxury car company.
DS's premium range stands out through its charismatic style, interior refinement, sophisticated technology and first-class comfort. Book your test drive today and discover the magic of DS Automobiles at hugolunamotors.ie.
Country Life on Midlands 103. Brought to you by W. Shaw Burlington Business Park Tullamore. Supplier of New Holland tractors in the Midlands. WORshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome to Country Life here on Midlands 103. It is MJ Clery with you until 8 p.m. this evening, bringing you the latest from the Midlands and further afield from the worlds of agriculture, food and agri-business. Now, thank you all for joining me as always. Delighted to be back with you after another quick week. It is mixed weather over the last few days. A lot of rain, especially yesterday in particular with ourselves in County Offaly. Looks set to continue into next week. Storm Amy, we are hearing on the news report there just before I came on, heading our way. Next couple of days very wet and windy, and in particular Friday. So I suppose the main thing is safety. If there's high blustery winds, we know farms can be very dangerous places, so to be cognizant of that over the coming days, and I'm sure it'll pass our way. Hopefully then maybe we'll get a little bit of dry weather into early October to try and keep cattle out that little bit longer and shorten the winter slightly. It's what we all want in farming circles. Fingers crossed for that. Now, in a moment, Leishman and IFA Tillage Chair Kieran McAvoy will join me to give an update as to what the IFA are looking for in next week's budget for tillage farmers. He was up at an Oireachtas committee meeting today. He's in Dublin, and Kieran's going to be speaking to us in just a moment. There's also a good news story from County Laois, where Martin MacDonald from Stradbally Town and Country has formulated a ration that has 75% Irish ingredients. Great to see someone taking the bull by the horn and trying to support Irish farmers and Irish tillage farmers in particular. We're going to talk about that as well with Kieran in just a moment. Now, there's organic roadshows happening across the country at the moment. One in Portlaoise last week, Dare, County Limerick this evening, and Donegal next week. It's all about promoting organic farming and the growing prospects for organic livestock in particular. Pádraig Brennan is from the Organic Strategy Forum. He joins me from Adair this evening to chat about these events and what exactly they are doing and looking at, and what exactly they feel the future is for organic farming. Now, renewable energy is one of the hottest topics globally at the moment. We covered regularly here in the programme. A Galway farmer has set up a biogas plant on his dairy farm, and there's an open day this weekend. Stephen Robb from the Farmers Journal will join me to chat about that, and also the turning of the sod on a huge anaerobic digestion plant in Mayo last month, biggest in the country, I believe. Stephen is going to talk to us about that a little bit later. Farmer health and well-being, something that we are very passionate about here on the programme, and a recent study shows that premature death is 40% higher in men than in women. With the majority of farmers being men, it's something the farming community needs to be cognizant of. John McNamara from Teagasc will join me later to chat about this study and what you can do to help yourself live a longer and healthier life. Isn't that what we all want? So it'll be interesting to speak to John a little bit later here on the programme. Text me or WhatsApp me 083 30 10 103. Happy to bring to our guests here this evening, or indeed just read out your text if you have a comment to make. And as I said, it's tillage where we are starting this evening, and Kieran McAvoy joins me. Kieran, many thanks for taking my call this evening, live from Dublin, and you're at the Oireachtas committee meeting today. Can you fill us in, please?
Yeah, look, thanks for the opportunity, MJ. Yeah, we had an opportunity there today for the tillage industry. So we were in there at 3:30, IFA, myself and Max Potter and John Murphy from Wexford, and we had Tillage Industry Ireland representatives and representatives of the Irish grain growers. So we had made statements to the Oireachtas Committee on Agriculture on our position on tillage and what we think is wrong, and what needs to be done by government in general. And we were questioned then by the deputies there on the day quite vigorously, and we felt we got unanimous support from all parties that they accept that there is a major problem in tillage, and that they would be pushing their leaders to stand into the government programme and support tillage. and that the tillage industry is vital to the Irish economy, you know.
And for the non-tillage farmers out there, Kieran, I suppose in a word or in a couple of sentences, like what is wrong, or where are the big issues at the moment in tillage farming?
Yeah. Look, at MJ, that's a very fair question. It's a question I asked that we're members of in IFA. We're members of Copa Cogeca, which is an umbrella group for farmers in Europe, and I attend a series meetings of that every 3 months. And I asked the very same question: what has gone wrong in tillage in Europe? And I believe it's policy. It's substandard and no equivalence of imports. And I think policy has failed us. And the cost of doing business in Ireland and in Europe, but particularly in Ireland, we're the second highest in the EU 27 for energy and different things. So the cost of doing business in this country is just totally out of kilter. And we can't compete with countries where labour is cheap, fertiliser is cheap, chemicals are freely available, and very little regulation, you know.
Yeah, it's simply put, I suppose, Kieran, and it's not a surprise if you do look at inputs over the last couple of years where they're going. But I suppose, look, government policy has been pushing tillage for the last few years. They want to get up to 400,000 hectares by 2030. There's a big green credential to tillage. So you would be presuming they're going to try and row in and help tillage farming, or at least that's what you'd hope. But what do you feel is going to be the outcome in relation to next week's budget?
Well, look, I'm not a clairvoyant, to be honest with you. So, I suppose, to be fair to the Department of Agriculture, particularly on the tillage side of it, they have been very supportive of tillage over the last number of years, and they have brought in some measures, and some measures have frustrated us, and some have made the tillage less competitive. But, they have brought in, different measures, straw chopping, the area, bean payments, things like that to try and help keep the tillage area. It's not enough and it's not working. And the problem here is the tillage farmer is doing nothing wrong. We're growing a low carbon product, and we're the lowest carbon emission of all agriculture. And we probably, in a couple of years' time with Teagasc and the AgNav, we can prove that grain can be grown in Ireland carbon neutral. And, that has to be of huge importance strategically for the government and for the country. And we support $1 billion industry in the drinks industry alone. And, as I say, nothing has really gone wrong with the tillage farmer other than commodity prices are not keeping up with the cost of doing production, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I spoke to Minister Hayden. What was it, 3 weeks ago, 37 or 21, or 2 weeks ago at the ploughing, and I did put the tillage issue to him. There was a big meeting in his neck of the woods in County Kildare on the previous Friday night, and when pushing on a payment or what the payment would be for tillage farmers, he skirted about budgets and budgetary constraints and whatnot. And I suppose the question is, Kieran, is there any money in the pot there for tillage farmers next week?
Well, look at we held that meeting in Killashee. It's the first time I've seen 1,000 farmers in a room, and particularly 1,000 tillage farmers, and the place was heaving with frustration. I think the Minister, to be fair, got the message very clear on the night. I think the Minister isn't going to make commitments that he can't, commit to yet. And I think that would be foolish of him to do so. I do think he will work his best to deliver on the programme of government. And we're not looking for new money here. This is the really annoying thing that you hear off of politicians at the moment. That's extra money. It's not. It's part of the government programme. So it is that everybody agreed to and signed up. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael signed up to that they would support the tillage sector to the tune of 60 million. Our ask is that it's a 65 million a year scheme for 5 years for tillage farmers, not a band-aid. And don't get me wrong, the money that came last year was quite welcome and nobody sent it back. But we need a constant support for 5 years to get us through the effects of what has happened with the distortion of the markets, with the likes of the Ukrainian war, the cost of energy, cost of fertiliser. And look, there's side effects here from, and I'm not picking on any sector here, MJ, you know that as long as I'm coming on, but there's other sectors doing better. They're competing a lot more favourably for land. Derogation has had an impact. We hope that the derogation will be retained and it won't have a further impact on the land market. If it has, it'll drive the tillage area to a point where you have to start to wonder, is it going to be viable to stay in place? And that's a serious, serious place. And look, we fed into the Food Vision 2030 group that Matt Dempsey chaired on behalf of Minister McConaughey, set it up. And there's 28 recommendations there, and they need to be implemented pretty fast. Some of them are slow burners, but some of them can return the yield quite quickly. And again, within that forum as well, there was an aspiration that there needs to be a financial support. We would much rather to be getting our return out of our marketplace. And, I think if there was equivalence of standards and a recognition for native grain in rations, and I know you will talk to me later about that, but if there was more of a recognition of that, I think, we wouldn't be in this position. But we are pitched against the cheapest cost formula in rations at the moment. And with our cost of doing business and lack of chemicals, we're not able to compete.
And that does bring me over to, I mentioned at the outset, he's a county man of yourself, Martin McDonald, Stradbally Town and Country, and he's selling a beef ration in Stradbally with 75% Irish ingredients. So it's a 14% ration, consists of Irish barley, Irish beans, Irish oats and Irish wheat beet pulp. And there's a few, obviously, ingredients off the boat, if you will, and it just needs to be to bring it up and whatnot, but 75% of Irish ingredients. Here's someone on the ground, Kieran, who's taken action, trying to support the growers in his locality who are delivering barley into him for years and years, and it's great to see. And if more of our millers did this, more of the larger scale millers did it, it could make a difference.
Absolutely. Look, and I know Martin and I know his business, and he is very loyal to the Irish grain growers or Irish grain farmers, to be fair to him, and it's a great initiative. And look, to be honest, MJ, we have travelled around the country this year. Myself and Max Pottern, who's the grain policy officer in IFA, we've met both farmers and merchants. And what we hear off the likes of Martin and merchants like that, and there's plenty of them they're in Offaly, I could name several of them, they're all over the country, where they're genuinely working with tillage farmers, taking Irish grain in, and they're trying to sell it back out in Irish rations. And they're getting hammered by ports built in the mills that have no affinity to anything other than least cost formulation. So, look, I have no doubt, if you go back, sometimes you have to look back to look forward. If you go back to a number of years ago, on most farms in the Midlands in particular, MJ, and even in your own area, everybody had 15 or 20 acres of barley. Yeah. That all went into an old shed, and it was rolled, and it was fed to the cattle, and the cattle done fine on it. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're going back to basics. And there's no better product than using Irish grain that you know exactly what it is. It's not a substitute. It's not a filler. It hasn't come from the Amazon forest. It's a great initiative, and I hope people listening will support Martin in that endeavour. And also, in all the other counties around here, we all know that the private merchants and the cooperatives in this area in particular, and in other parts, that are buying the Irish grain and are wearing the Irish jersey, that we support them. And we asked a simple question when we're going in this winter to buy a ration: is there any Irish grain in it? Because the sad reality is, there's a lot of these rations, there's no Irish grain in whatsoever. So, yeah, that has to be welcomed.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, fingers crossed, it is good news next week. Kieran, look, you're flying the flag for the Irish grain industry. You're a passionate man in relation to it. There was no better man up there negotiating today. So, look, hopefully hasn't fallen on deaf ears, and we'll chat to you again in the programme.
Okay, thanks, MJ. Thanks for the opportunity. Bye.
Kieran McAvoy there, IFA Grain Chair, and as I said, Kieran, a passionate dairy farmer, flying the flag for a passionate tillage farmer, I should say, flying the flag for the tillage farmers in the Midlands and across the country. And isn't that a great initiative by Martin there from Stradbally Town and Country? And yeah, if you can at all, I'd echo Kieran's words there on supporting local and supporting the millers in your locality who are using Irish grain. But look, the tillage industry, it's in a tough spot at the moment, and it needs some funding next week in the budget. So let's hope it comes. Now, coming up after the break, I'm going to be speaking to Stephen Robb from the Farmers Journal in relation to, again, the budget and whether or not there's going to be continued funding for the industry, and also a very large anaerobic digestion plant. The sod has been turned on it in County Mayo last month, so we're going to get an update on that. Stay tuned.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw, family owned and serving the Midlands since 1982, we're Ireland's largest independent agri-dealer, specialising in New Holland tractors and parts. With over 40 years' experience, we provide top quality sales, service and support. Visit W.R. Shaw in Tullamore and Carlow or online at wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, renewable energy is where we're heading to now for a few minutes, and the man in the know is Stephen Robb from the Farmers Journal. Stephen, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Good to be here, MJ.
A few different areas we're going to pop around, Stephen, but at the outset of the programme there, speaking to Kieran McAvoy from the IFA, tillage farmers are looking for support next week in the budget, but the renewable energy sector is also looking for continued support. What exactly is the plan for next week if you're involved in renewables? Stephen, what are we looking for?
Yeah, well, I suppose article I had online today, it was kind of specific to anaerobic digestion, the biomethane. So at long last, the sector is slowly taking off, and there are some projects in construction around the country. But if you remember last year, when the National Biomethane Strategy was launched, the Department of Agriculture also announced a €40 million capital grant scheme for AD plants. So basically, developers could get a 20% capital grant towards the cost of building one of these plants as a form of support. So that, to be honest, that scheme is proven to be a bit of a disaster. So it is, but it was really only intended to be a pilot scheme as such, with the promise of a much bigger, well-funded scheme set to come into play in 2026. And this was confirmed earlier on in the year by the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications, who will be administering it, saying that they intend to launch a scheme for between 2026 and 2027, which would provide a capital grant towards AD plants. So MJ, if it's going to happen, we're going to find out about it in the budget, because the funding is supposed to come from the Climate, Nature and Infrastructure Fund, I think it is. So they'll obviously mention to it. So yeah, they're going to call their bluff now, I suppose, next week.
And what was the issue with the previous one? Stephen said it was a bit of a disaster. What, just the mechanics of it, or not working properly, or what's the problem?
Yeah, look, I suppose it was kind of premature. You know, they brought out that grant without any of the other policies and infrastructure around making an AD project work. So there were 18 applications, successful applications for that €40 million grant scheme, and there's a hard deadline in which those AD plants had to be built and capable of producing gas, and that was December of 2025, so in a few months' time. So of the 18 projects which got funding, only 3 of them will be likely to be operational by the end of the year, and the rest, most of them haven't even started construction yet. So what happens to the rest of that funding as such for the department? We've pressed them on this in the past, and they said, look, it's European money. If it's not spent, it's going to have to go back to Europe.
And these AD plants, then, we saw on the journal last month, haven't been speaking to you since, the start of October, but I think it was the start of last month, you had an article about a big plant which the sod was turned on up in County Mayo. Where is that one at? And also, we've spoken before about the plant more locally here, Monaster Evan. How far away are these, or whereabouts are they at?
Yeah, so I suppose the Mayo project, over Ballinaal direction, it's Nephin Renewable Gas's first project. Nephin Renewable Gas are the renewable branch, you could say, of the largest shareholder in the Corrib gas pipeline, Nephin Energy. So yeah, look, they have a big pipeline of projects ahead of them, and these are big plants. These are big anaerobic digestion projects, 90,000 tonnes each, roughly about a third kind of crop grass silage, a third waste, and a third slurry and manures. So yeah, look, there was an official turning off the sod ceremony as such last month, and construction's underway. So I'd imagine they'll be up and running and producing gas by next year. That gas will be injected into the national gas grid, and they actually entered into an agreement with Flowgas. Flowgas are going to buy the gas and sell it to their customers. So yeah, look, that's happening, and the Mayo project is the first of many for Nephin. But yeah, the other one, I suppose, if you're driving along the M7 recently, just north of Monaster Evan, you cannot miss the very large anaerobic digestion plant which is being built at the moment, and you know, tanks are up, the domes are inflated, and the sheds are being built. So that's a company called Evergreen Agricultural Enterprises, and really, really interesting project. I was out there last month. We did a bit of a walk around for the Farmers Journal, and at the moment it's going to be one of the biggest projects, if not the biggest project in the country, about 165,000 tonnes, although phase 1 is only about 100,000 tonnes of feedstock. But MJ, what's interesting is they're not using any slurries, manures or wastes. What they're actually going to be using is byproducts from the distilling and drinks industry, as well as about 15,000 tonnes or so of maize silage, which will be contracted from local farmers. So Kieran was on before chatting about tillage. There's going to be a new market for a small pocket of farmers around the plant. So yeah, look, after at long last, things are finally happening in the AD world.
I suppose just listening to you, Stephen, like before you said it, you said 165,000 tonnes. I was just saying to myself, in that part of the world, you could be doing well, get your hands on it if it was all coming from the agri industry. But the fact that they're taking byproducts from distillery and drinks industry does make sense. And then again, I suppose the one up in Mayo, it's probably looked lesser stocked up there. And if you are relying on silage and then your slurry and whatnot, you probably have a better chance of getting it. Like, I presume they've done, massive amounts of surveys and tests and data collection as to, can they get the ingredients for these plants? And the answer must be yes, or they wouldn't be building them. Or are they taking a little bit of a punt at some way, shape or form?
No, you're 100% right. They generally, for a project of this size, and especially for a company like Neffen, who are backed by the Canadian Pension Fund, they have done a hell of a lot of work and due diligence on their project locations before any planning applications even lodged, never mind a shovel in the ground. So look, they are confident that they have the feedstock supply. They have obviously, we're not privy to the contractual arrangements with the suppliers. The contracts are in place, seemingly off-takes in place, and construction's underway. So now they have told me that they have other projects down in Waterford, one in Wicklow and one in Cork. All of them are at various stages of the planning system. But they would have told me that they have evaluated other sites as well, and they would have screened them out or dropped them for various reasons, whether that's grid connectivity, whether that's feedstock supply, or whether that's just a red flag for planning. So yeah, look, there seems to be quite a bit of work that goes into these plants.
And if these guys are backed by a pension fund, obviously they're solid investments. Is there any idea or concept of profitability in relation to these, or how long they take to break even and then to make money, or is it a really long-term play?
It's a damn good question. So it is, because at the moment, if you compare the likes of the AD sector in Northern Ireland to what we're trying to do down here, Northern Ireland, you had a fixed kind of support scheme, which was very predictable, and you could really map out the return on investment or cash flow or potential break-even point quite easily. Whereas in the Republic, because there's no support scheme as such, instead it's private commercial gas purchase agreements. So Neffen have locked into a private commercial gas agreement with Flow Gas, and we don't know what price they actually agreed on. So it's a lot harder to say, but like would it be between 7 and 10 years or so? These projects will be operating for an awful lot longer, but I would imagine it's probably not far off that.
Lastly, Stephen, there is a smaller scale, but a very interesting one from an agri perspective. There's a Galway farmer, and he's after setting up a plant, AD plant, down on his farm, or maybe I have the terminology wrong there. Can you just tell us, there's an open day this Friday. What exactly can farmers see if they pop down to it?
Yeah, no, so we've gone from the very large, massive commercial 100,000 tonne projects to the opposite, really small farm scale, farmer built, farmer owned, farmer operated type of anaerobic digestion plant. So dairy farmer Brendan Kildea, he's based over in Dunmore in Galway. He has been working with the Irish Bioenergy Association on a demonstration project. So they're having their open day this Friday, and anyone can attend it. Basically what you'll see is a small scale anaerobic digestion plant which is producing biogas, which is then converted to electricity, and that's powering his farm. He's a dairy farmer, 200 cows, has a couple of robots on the go, so he has good energy demand. But I suppose what's interesting about this project is, well, I think there's real potential for farmers in the country to replicate this model if a bit of grant aid was in place. But he's not importing any feedstock, so basically he's feeding the digester about 4,000 tonnes a year, but that consists of slurry produced on the farm, of farmyard manure produced on the farm, of a bit of surplus or waste silage that he's not using produced on the farm, and then all of the nutrients are managed and used on the farm as well. So really, really nice kind of circular model as such, which the department have kind of overlooked, to be perfectly honest with you, and the government have kind of overlooked. But the whole idea of this demonstration project is to show that, guys, this is a runner here. Now, Brendan got a 50% capital grant towards this project. It cost 450,000 all in. But you know, if you were to take some of that, 20, maybe 30 million or so off the funding that's probably going to be sent back to Europe because it's not spent. If you put that towards smaller scale projects like this, MJ, how many small scale plants would you fund around the country?
That's hugely interesting, that one, Stephen. If people are interested in that, what the website is, it Irish Bioenergy? Is that what it's called?
Yes, that's right. IRBEA.org /farm biogas, or go onto the Farmers Journal, find the article and follow the link. The guys are pretty keen now that you register before you rock up, so it'd be good if you could do that. There is also a weather warning in place. Well, I don't know if the weather warning is in place, but it's going to be a rough day, so it is on Friday. But as far as I know, it's still going ahead. Yeah,
very good. Many thanks, Stephen, as always, and we'll speak to you again on the programme.
No problem. Thank you.
Stephen Robb there from the Farmers Journal, and some really interesting angles there. I have to say, Stephen is so well informed on this area. Look, the large ones are very interesting. We are seeing them up and running. We're seeing them moving. But what about that small AD plant on the dairy farm in Galway, completely powered by grass, silage, slurry, whatever the case may be, from his own farm, and that is this Friday coming. And as Stephen said, the government missed a trick there with all these large scale developments. If we were to put some money into the smaller scale ones, wouldn't that really help our green footprint? I did also mention to Minister Hayden back at the ploughing a couple of weeks ago that the solar capital investment scheme is brilliant, and as I said on the programme, you've heard me talk about it many times. I put solar up on the shed at home and it's working very, very, very well. There's great incentives there, but during the winter obviously we don't really generate any power from the solar. So what about the potential of a grant for a wind turbine during the winter? And again, he said no more than he said to the tillage farmers, we've no funding for it. But as Stephen said there, if some of that money that's going to be sent back to Europe was used for these smaller scale projects, they would all add up and make a big, big difference. But that's a really interesting one, no doubt. That is going to be something we see and hear more of as we progress down the renewable journey. Now, coming up after the break, Pádraig Brennan, he's the chairperson of the Organic Strategy Forum. He's going to join us and he's going to talk about a series of roadshows which are happening all over the country at the moment. Stay tuned.
Introducing the all-new 252 electric range at Hugo Luna Motors.
See our Peugeot E2008, now available in electric.
This bold SUV boasts a striking design with sleek LED headlamps and a redesigned grille for a powerful presence.
With zero CO2 emissions and 156 HP of power, the E2008 delivers efficiency and performance.
Discover more at hugolunamotors.ie. Drive the future today.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
Brought to you by W.R. Shaw, where New Holland isn't just a brand, it's our passion. For over 40 years, we've been Ireland's trusted name for New Holland tractors, parts and farm machinery. Whether you need new, used or ex-hire tractors, we've got you covered. wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here in Midlands 103. Now, organic farming is what we're speaking about. For the next few moments here on the programme, Pádraig Brennan is joining me from Adair in County Limerick. He's the chairperson of the Organic Strategy Forum. And Pádraig, you're on the road at the moment, road shows up and down the country. Can you inform our listeners as to what's going on, please?
We are indeed, MJ. First of all, thanks for the opportunity to come on tonight. We're actually in Ballinasloe tonight, would you believe? We're holding a series of organic livestock roadshow meetings right across the country, because really, I suppose, MJ, you look at it over the last 3 years, we've seen an extra 4,000 livestock farmers convert to organic through the organic farming scheme. So we have a lot of farmers that are new to the sector, and I suppose really what we're trying to do now is make sure that the cattle and sheep on those farms stay in the organic system, are processed into organic beef and lamb. So what we're doing is we're going around the country meeting farmers, giving them an opportunity to get some practical advice on, what's involved in finishing cattle and sheep, the financial performance of organic systems, and Teagasc has some really useful information there. Likewise, Teagasc have information out tonight here in Ballinasloe on some finishing trials that they've completed on organic cattle and sheep, and looking at the performance of them compared to conventional cattle and all of that. And really what we're trying to do then is we're hearing from the processors and Board Bia from a market demand point of view, what outlets are out there, how can you, if you like, access those outlets. So really trying to kind of provide the nuts and bolts advice that would be useful for farmers that are probably newer to the sector, or even those farmers that might be thinking about entering the organic farming scheme the next time it opens.
Yeah, very good, Parg. Yeah, apologies. They're next week, Ballinasloe tonight. I suppose, Parg, just on this, we've had a huge tract of farmers going into organics in the last couple of years. Obviously, payments have been increased in the last couple of years, and it's made it more lucrative for farmers to enter the sector. But it is a good thing. Look, beef farming in particular is at an all-time high, and you are seeing lots of organic cattle just being sold conventionally at the moment, because there's no difference really, to be honest, in comparison with one and the other. And I suppose for farmers doing that, they're going to say, well, look, I'm getting the same price going to my local mart. I don't have to go up the country to one of these specific organic marts. So why would I go out of my way and do that? And I suppose that's the question really that farmers will wonder about. What would you say to them, Parg?
Absolutely, and I think this year has been a fantastic year, and it's great to see it from a conventional side as well as an organic side in terms of the prices that are there for cattle in particular. I suppose what I'd be trying to say to any farmer listening tonight is if you look back over the last 3 or 5 years, MJ, take this year out of the equation a little bit, on average the organic cattle price for a finished animal has been somewhere around 15% higher than the conventional price. Likewise on the organic lamb side, and we're even hearing it tonight here in Ballinasloe from Irish Country Meats, that they are still paying a 15% bonus on organic lambs, up to a kind of a euro in total, if you like, per kilo, over and above what they pay for conventional lambs. So I think if you look at it from a kind of a medium to longer term point of view, there has been a premium there. There has continued to be a premium there consistently for organic cattle and sheep, if you like. Plus, we're just hearing some interesting financial data here from Teagasc tonight, and they're saying when you look at the relative income of an organic cattle rearing system or an organic sheep rearing system, it compares very favourably with a conventional system for two reasons. Number one, there's higher payments coming into the farm, and the costs are lower as well in the farm, and any animals that they sell typically over a period of time tend to earn a premium as well. So those three factors certainly look like they're adding up to a higher family farm income on an organic farm versus the conventional equivalent. Now, it's still a bit more digging to be done on that, but certainly it seems to stack up fairly well.
Yeah, and I suppose it is important, Parg, as well. Look, we are in a purple patch at the moment. Fingers crossed it lasts. But if you are going down the organic route, and if there is a higher margin there, probably is wise to get into the mindset of selling your organic produce organically, keeping it as that premium product, and understanding that there is a market there. It is different than conventional, and that's essentially what you are. You're an organic farmer and you want to sell your organic produce organically. And you're doing that. I'm not going to say regardless of price. Look, you want to be getting paid more for it.
Oh, no.
There's no question about that. But it's a mindset thing as well.
It is, and I suppose what you have seen, you mentioned yourself there a few minutes ago, there's a lot more organic mart sales, if you like, right across the country now, even compared to 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe some farms that are newer to the organic system are only learning about those now, but that network is better than it was. And certainly even from a processor point of view, listening to Good Herdsman and Irish Country Meats here tonight, they are trying to put in place a kind of a better network around the country where farmers can, rather than having to transport the animal a long distance themselves, that to kind of create a kind of a coordinator sort of a role across the different regions where, farmers can if you like, move the stock to, and they'll take them then from there on to the final outlet. But the really important part here in some ways, MJ, is the farmer that might be producing a weanling or a store animal or a store lamb. We need to connect those to farmers who are able and willing to finish those animals as well. So there's a big job of work to be done, and that's one of the main reasons for the roadshows. How do we build those connections? How do we coordinate the supply better than we've been able to do up to now? Because it will pay over the medium to longer term. That premium is going to be there, is what we're hearing tonight. So how do we make sure more farmers are in a position to find that organic outlet that hopefully over time will continue to pay a premium?
Yeah, that's hugely important, Parg. Look, as you well know, but I was speaking to a farmer even about 10 days ago. He recently went organic, and that is his issue really at the moment. He's just tries to finish her, and he's trying to buy those forward stores and then finish them. And there's just, I suppose, a lack of a network there, a lack of a connection. And look, you're working on it, so great stuff. If we're talking just about Irish organic beef and lamb, for example, and we're talking about markets. Where's the majority of this going, Porgan? Where's the big appetite for it?
Well, we've always had a strong enough domestic market, if you like, albeit small scale relative to some of the European markets that are out there. But if you look from an export market point of view, certainly for beef, UK is by far and away the number one market, followed by markets like the Netherlands and Germany. Not dissimilar to the main markets that we'd have for conventional beef in a lot of ways, MJ. And likewise, from a lamb point of view, it's that continent of Europe. It's the likes of Belgium, Northern Europe, markets like Switzerland, where there's a real appetite for organic lamb in those markets as well. And I suppose from an Irish point of view, Irish beef and lamb already has a really strong reputation in those markets. So organic is another part of a range that you can add to that reputation, if you like. So there's almost like a foundation there that you can kind of tap into in those markets, and it's going into retailers, it's going into some of the online retailers in the UK, and likewise on the food service side. So it really is a European market perspective, and I think that's where the growth will come in terms of the demand, because in many markets at the moment, the demand is probably running slightly ahead of what the supply would be, and what we're just hearing from the processors here tonight, that if they had certainty that there was going to be a higher levels of stock available week in, week out throughout the year, they have customers there that are very interested, shall we say, in buying that product. But until there's certainty from a processing number point of view, as well as the market outlet point of view, it's very difficult to commit to that. So it is still a little bit of a chicken and egg situation, but the demand is there in the marketplace. The question is nearly now, can we supply the numbers we need consistently throughout the year to meet that demand?
You know, on behalf of the farmers of the Midlands Park, the processor there, tell them to up the base price there by a few percent there, and then there'll be more of a guaranteed supply. It's
farmers the same way. So
it's a team effort, says you. Now, Pádraig, we'll leave it there and we'll let you back to Ballinasloe. Many thanks for joining us. I know you're on the road. Last week Portlaoise, Ballinasloe tonight, there next week, and Donegal the following week. And look, we'll
every
speak
Wednesday night for the next couple of Wednesday nights. Yeah.
Very good, Pádraig, and we'll speak to you again here in the programme. Thank you.
Thank you, MJ.
Pádraig Brennan there, chairperson of the Organic Strategy Forum. And look, you can see exactly what Pádraig is saying there, that there needs to be more commitment to the full aspect of organic farming from start through to finish. So I think the connection of the farmers who are going to finish, so the farmers who have maybe suckler cows, whatever the case may be, want to sell the weanlings, and then those farmers who are going to bring those, be it store lambs or store cattle through to finish, definitely needs to be more of a connection there. But look, I'll stand by my point as well. If the processors want that market, then they need to up it a little bit. I believe organic beef at the moment is in around €8 a kilo, and look, with bonuses and whatnot on conventional beef, there's very little between it. There's a little bit between it, all right, but not a whole pile. So they'll have to do something on their side too. Now, coming up after the break, Dr. John McNamara from Teagasc is going to be talking to us about farmer health and well-being. And unfortunately, premature death is 40% higher in males than females. Majority of farmers being male. It's something we need to be cognizant of. So what can we do about it? Stay tuned, and John is going to tell us in just a moment.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw. Looking for the best in farm machinery? We've been supplying top quality New Holland tractors and parts and providing service since 1982. Our expert team is here to keep your farm running smoothly, with branches in Tullamore and Carlow. Visit wrshaw.ie today.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here in Midlands 103. Now, farmer health and well-being is what we're speaking about for the last part of this evening's programme. And we have John McNamara from Teagasc on the line. John, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.
More than welcome, John. You've been on the programme with us before, and I know health and well-being is your area, and you're a great protagonist of healthy farmers, and the healthier we are, the better we work, and the more productive we are, the better it is for everything. So this study, which is referenced in a recent press release, states, I'm not going to say worryingly, I suppose we can take action, but premature death among males in Ireland is 40% higher compared to females. I suppose, look, farmers are predominantly men, so this is something we need to be cognizant of.
No, absolutely. No, the report is called The Real Face of Men's Health in Ireland, and it's called the November Report, and it's online and is available. And as you say, it shows that men have 40% more premature deaths than women. Now, it also says that women spend a greater proportion of their lives in poor health and disability. So it's really important for both men and women that we look after our health. Now, in the case of farming, which Teagasc services, people make their livelihood from the land, and our studies have shown that health is really important. If people are in poor health, their incomes tend to drop, they can't avail of off-farm employment, and they have higher levels of disability. So I think we all need to work at our health. I think that's the key message.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of interesting aspects with this. One being health status. It varies significantly with the level of economic deprivation for both men and women. So I suppose, look, the less money you have, the less money you have to spend on your health. I suppose eating poorer foods and not exercising and whatnot. But again, you're looking at this and you're saying to yourself, assisting farmers to gain economic sustainability is a major objective of Teagasc, and it can have a positive knock-on effect for farmer health. So it's a very interesting angle here. It's one I didn't really, I suppose, put two and two together on, but it makes sense when you're looking at it in black and white.
Yeah, no, there's a famous person in the UK, Professor Michael Marmot, and he showed that, for many years that, the more deprivation that's out there, the worse people's health is. So if people, improve their incomes and their education, then they tend to have much better health. Now, what this study, the Irish study shows is that, men who are very deprived have a much worse outcome than women, but everyone has a bad outcome. Now, where it links in with what Teagasc does is that we help farmers to make efficient use of their land, grassland and so forth, and improve their incomes. So in doing that now, we're indirectly helping farmers to gain health.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you do say it like that, it does make complete sense. I suppose the few pointers then, John, farmers who are listening and who want to avoid ill health, you're looking at this, you're looking at studies, you're reading about it and researching it regularly. What are the couple of big ones, I suppose, that we need to be cognizant of?
Yeah, well, no, a key point is that we're all in charge of our own health to an extent. In the long term, we can adopt practices that will lengthen our lives and make us healthier. Now, the biggest one of those is health screening, which in essence means going to the doctor or to a healthcare professional, a nurse maybe, and getting the blood pressure, cholesterol, sugars, that sort of stuff checked. That tells people well in advance if a problem might be arising, and it helps them to take preventative action. That is an absolutely crucial one. Now, the other big area is in Ireland is, and with farmers, believe it or not, is exercise, diet and weight. Now, I spoke at a conference, today here in Galway. Farmers get lots of steps, but they don't get enough cardiovascular exercise, and that can be got in short spells, 10 or 20 minutes of moderate to high level, vigorous activity. So it's not all the steps you get; it's the short, intensive bursts of exercise. Now, diet, weight control and all that is crucially important. Another big one that came up at today's conference was watching out for signs of change in the body related to cancer. Skin cancer, but other areas as well. And, the outcome for an early diagnosis at stage 1 is much, much better than at stage 3 or stage 4. So watching out for signs and taking action early. We tend not to take action early enough. And the third one, and I'm glad to say that alcohol and smoking are areas that farmers are relatively good on, but too much alcohol and indeed smoking is an absolute no-no. So we have a lot of our own health under our own control, and it's a question of taking action, really. The challenge is to take action. Now, could I go back to the Irish Men's Health Report? It does show a good lot of progress for both men and women over the last 20 years. We are, as a population, getting healthier, but farmers tend to be lagging behind. Regarding premature mortality, they're still about 2.3 times behind the other people in the population, and the same applies for cancer risk. So I think the farming population is tending to lag behind, and that's why we want to give them very strong messages to manage their health.
Yeah, well, all I can say, John, is very wise advice there across the board, and if people can take one or two things from what you've said there, hopefully we'll help someone this evening make a positive commitment to their health. John, I'm going to say many thanks for taking my call this evening, and we will speak to you again here on the programme.
Thank you for having me.
More than welcome. That's Dr. John McNamara from Teagasc there. And as I said, some very wise advice from John. Action is the big one, to take action. And if something is not right, go to the doctor or go to your healthcare professional. And look, the exercise is a big one as well. It's something we cover here regularly on the programme. But you might be getting lots of steps in, but it mightn't just be quite the type of exercise that's going to make you cardiovascularly fit. So you can get screenings and tests done as well. Your local gyms and your local areas such as that can test all that for you and give you an idea on obesity and everything else. And as John said, action is the key. Now, that is it for this evening's programme. I'd like to thank all of my guests here over the course of the hour. Kieran McAvoy from the IFA at the start of the hour, Stephen Robb from the Farmers Journal, Pádraig Brennan from the Organic Strategy Forum, and John McNamara there from Teagasc. The show is repeated on Sunday morning at 7 a.m. through to 8 a.m. I know lots of dairy farmers out there listening to me on a Sunday morning, and many thanks for that. You often say it to me. I will be back this time next week. As always, you can get our podcast, MJ Clery, Clery. Pop it in wherever you get your podcast, and you can listen at your leisure. We'll speak to you in a week's time. Good night, and we will talk to you then.